Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm so thrilled to be talking to Christine Tremarco all about the fantastic Netflix series Adolescence. And one of the things I wanted to talk about straight out of the gate is, you and Stephen Graham have such an extensive history. I know that your mums were childhood best friends growing up. And so the two of you kind of, it feels like, had this really natural chemistry to your characters' relationship and the history of their marriage. But I was interested in how the two of you really used the rehearsal period before just to figure out some of the details of what their marriage looked like, all those details about when they met, the memories that they shared together that would then come into play throughout the series.
Yeah, I think within the scripts, and we've got it in episode 4 where we speak about the dance and Eddie putting on the pink wig, and our backstory. Sorry, Manda and Eddie's backstory of them meeting and getting together and becoming boyfriend and girlfriend when they were really young and at school. I think mine and Stephen's friendship definitely lent itself to Eddie and Manda's relationship, of course. So that chemistry was just naturally there. And I think you find out stuff in the rehearsal period. And when you're working on such wonderful scripts, surrounded by other wonderful actors, especially someone like Stephen, who just raises you higher as an actor. And then we're shooting in the one take format, which just gives you so much freedom. So you're staying present with the moment. So I found that through the rehearsal period and actually through filming the takes, things just happen naturally. And I think we've already got like the friendship me and Stephen have. We've known each other since we were little. As you said, our mums were best friends growing up in Kirby, and me and Stephen have known each other since we were babies. All that goes into play. And you feel safe as well with the journey that Eddie and Mandarin and the kids go on. It's a very free way of working. You remain present, so things happen within that. So nothing's what I'm saying is like nothing's over preempted. We spoke about, and that was already there in the scripts, about how Eddie and Manda met, and where I work, what Stephen does, our day-to-day life as a family. We're just a normal, happy family.
Also,
And
when
then,
you're bringing up that moment where they talk about the school dance and him having worn that wig and the idea that he never really cared what people thought about him and if they were laughing, I feel like that instantly captures the sense of humor that they've shared throughout their childhood and through their adult lives. And was interested in kind of getting to bring that side forward, because I feel like the really lovely thing about episode 4 is, yes, it deals with like the seriousness and it's incredibly emotional, but we also get some of that lightness and some of that levity in their relationship as well.
yeah, there's a lot of love there. And I think, especially by the time, we've got that time jump where we get to episode 4, it's a family trying to keep it together. And it's a mum and a wife trying to keep a family together. And I think what was so clever and also so heartbreakingly beautiful is that we see that, as you've mentioned, in the journey to Wainwright, and it's his birthday, and we've just had nuns written on the van. And then it's like, right, we're going to go to Wainwright, and it's trying to like make the best of the day, and it being Eddie's birthday. And then what happens in Wainwright's? And
And
also, she says to him, you never, but your dad never cared when people laughed at him. And then what happens in Wainwright is just, I mean, that in itself is heartbreaking, isn't it? To
it
go from
is.
that to that.
And when you're bringing up that idea of, it's a mother and a wife just trying to keep her family together, feels like that's instantly true from the very beginning of episode 1 as well. Her instant reaction is, protecting her kids in any way that she can. And she's not afraid to criticize the police for the way that they came into her house. And so I wanted to ask you just about filming those initial sequences during the police raid and when she first goes down to the police station.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when the police first come into the house, and Eddie thinks that they're coming in for him. No, their little boy. When they come in and take, I mean, it's her baby, it's her little boy out. I mean, it's horrifying. I mean, that the whole, even shooting it, because like you said, in the moments with it, it was terrifying. And, I think when we get to the police station and like what you're saying, she's in, I think that a family in complete shock, but also they put a son in a cell. It's terrifying for them all as a family. But yeah, when she says to Ashley's character, Basco, when she says you threw my daughter on the floor, it's that mother's protection, isn't it? But for that to happen to what is a normal family is horrifying.
And even with what you just mentioned about there's so much shock and trauma that they don't even know is occurring right in that moment because they're really just trying to piece it all together. There's
Mm.
that great detail of, she's contacting the neighbor and trying to get everything sorted at the house. And did you find that there were these elements of she's just trying to manage the things that feel like they're manageable and that she can control because everything has just suddenly become completely uncontrollable and they have so many
Yeah,
questions that aren't being answered.
yeah, of course. It will. I mean, she says it. That's true. Like she says, uh, they've got no door. The door's gone in. I mean, to just be up getting ready in the morning. Eddie's just not long come back from work. I'm about to go to work. The kids are upstairs, and she screams that I've got two kids upstairs. They come in with guns. I mean, terrifying.
And she's also there trying to be a mum to Jamie in any way that she can, but they're not in the same room together, but she's like trying to make sure that they know that he doesn't do well with needles. And even in episode 4, when she talks about, I wrote to them, I let them know about your food intolerances. And,
Tolerances, yeah.
what were the spaces that you discovered of her just trying to navigate how do I still parent my child when my child isn't physically here with me?
I just think I think in the way it's shot as well, it's not something that, I think when you're in the moments of it, it's your presence within it. And then you're working on such brilliant scripts that you're just in that moment with it and dealing with it. She's dealing with it the best she can because from him getting taken from the house and bursting in with guns to then we do the time jump where he's not in his room, he's not with them, he's not eating Chinese, he's not, that's our little boy. And I think like any strong woman, she's trying to keep it together and she's trying to keep it together for the family. And all she can do is write or keep writing about his intolerances and seeing when she can. And I mean it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. There's also her feelings around not being in the room when he's being questioned. He chooses his dad as the appropriate adult in that situation. And because of that, she never saw the tape of what happened. What was your perspective on her feelings in that? Because we see in episode 4 that that's something that clearly has continued to be a conversation between the two of them several times.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Manda says to him, but then you see we go into, I think within episode 4, we go into when Owen says, I'm going to plead guilty. So Eddie and Manda have spoken, obviously, and Eddie's told her what he's seen on the tape. And so when Jamie says, um, I've decided I'm going to plead guilty, there's some reality there, isn't there? And when Manda says to Eddie, you saw the tape, I didn't. Like, come on, you saw it, I didn't. That's not her being, I should have been in that room. That's about acceptance. And then we get to where when Eddie says to Manda, do you think we could have done more? Acceptance of going, I think maybe it'd be okay if we accepted that maybe we should have done.
And when we see them in episode 4 as well, it kind of feels like their home is the only place that's this safe bubble for them as a family, because the moment that they set foot outside of the front door, there's the vandalism of the van, there's the neighbor across the street that's watching them the whole time, and they know that they're being perceived and observed and judged by everyone, and they can't even go to the homeware store without
Yeah, this
the
has
person
gone
that's
on.
helping them.
Yeah, I mean, this has gone on for a long time since this happened. So that's, because, we have it early on in the episode for where, they've got to go to with someone at the police because, they've been getting judged for since Jamie's arrest, I'd say.
Did you find a difference in how you were playing Manda when you were in the home, and it was, I'm surrounded by my family and it's that safe place, and then kind of more of a tenseness once she steps outside at all?
Um, only no, I think, do you know what? It's really, I can't sort of, and I think it's because of maybe the way I work and the way we shoot, and because the writing was so phenomenal. And we had such an amazing crew and a wonderful cast. And working with Stephen, he just raises you higher as an actor. There's a beautiful synchronicity that happens that I've never experienced before to that level on a floor between cast and crew. And when you're shooting in the one take, so you're staying present within the moment, and of course, when there's a safety when you're in your own home, that of course is there. But I think them going out together as a family to Wayne nights, obviously they're getting a lot more attention because of what's happened. But even, I mean, that's heartbreaking in itself. Even on Eddie's birthday, um, just going to a hardware store, look what happens, and then it is true. They say, well, maybe, when we get to the end of episode 4, let's just, well, I say let's just leave go in the pictures. We'll just leave go in the pictures. We'll just stay in. So yeah, there's that as well. But in terms of the playing of it, you're so nothing, because we had such a brilliant rehearsal time, and then obviously the way we're shooting is so freeing. To work in a one take format is so, I mean, it's terrifying before you hear action called. So, but what a joy to work that way. And then, performance wise, you remain present, and it's like doing a dance, and each take was different as well. So there's a freedom within that
Yeah.
in
And
terms
it's
of
incredible.
perform, and it's just such a beautiful way to work.
It is, and it's incredible because you get all these in between moments where usually it would be cutting from this scene to this moment. And
Yeah.
Stephen always talks about one of his favorite moments in episode 4 being when Manda comes in and is just hanging up the coat. And we see the emotion, and also the fact that she's then trying to hold her emotions in as she walks up the stairs, and you see the two of them kind of trying to protect each other from what they're really feeling because they don't want to bring the other one down. And what were some of the moments like that you really just found where the in between actually gave you so much more to play with and so much emotion to the character?
I just think, it's they win. I think because there's a flow to it, it's almost like a zen. And because you're in the moment, so you remain in present, that you're allowed that freedom in terms of performance, but it's so real because you're in it. Because we don't have any cuts, we're not stopping and doing it again, or doing 5 different sets of um coverage in a 2 shot, a wide shot. There's a freedom within that. And also there was a moment where because I know the last take on episode 4, it was the last take of the whole shoot that was used. So that was our last one. That made it to be the final episode. So we've done it quite a few times, and each time it changed in some way. But there was a moment where Stephen had left his coat in the van, and when Manda walks in and she puts a bag up thing, and then she puts his coat up, and then her coat, and I think it hits her then, from that moment of the police coming through the door and taking their little boy to him, saying he's going to plead guilty, where she just breaks. But then, as many strong women do, she pulls it back together, and she's trying to keep it together to then go and see how her husband is. And I think because there's such a natural flow to working that way, and then working with someone like Stephen, who working with him is just, he's so generous, and he's an acting masterclass, but there's a safety within that. And we've known each other like since we were babies as well, that's a safe place to play in, and it just felt so real.
Yeah.
So it's hard to sort of pinpoint certain moments because of the flow of it, but I must say that I mean, it broke my heart. I mean, Stephen at the end of episode 4, when he goes into Jamie's room, and Amelie. I mean, Amelie as well. That was her first professional job. Owen's just phenomenal and such an extraordinary talent. But so's Amelie. It was her first job as well, and she just. I mean, the two of them, both Owen and Amelie. It was like they'd always been on a set.
No, she's incredible, and I
Yeah.
love watching the relationship that Manda has with her daughter. Did you did you feel like there were certain aspects in terms of how she's trying to be a present mother that were a little bit different, that maybe there were some questions that she would ask that she wouldn't have asked before because they realized that the whole time that they thought that Jamie was safe because he was in his bedroom, and then they realized that wasn't the case, and I'm sure that that has an impact on both of them as parents.
Of course, yeah. I mean, like the whole conversation with, I mean, Stephen, just, it was so beautiful the way he played that. When he says, we thought he was in his room, we did the footy, and I couldn't look at him. I mean, that was like just that level of truth. I don't think there's anyone more truthful than Stephen as a performer. It's just, and when he says, we thought he was in his room, we thought he was safe, because you would think that, wouldn't you? The kids are just in the room playing on the computer, chatting to friends, but how dangerous that world can be. And I think Manda and Lisa's relationship, Lisa's a bit older, and she adores her daughter, but then obviously she's would have, I think, been checking in on her a lot more because of what's gone on.
And we also hear Manda and Eddie talking about some of the things that their therapist has told them. We hear them with that mantra of trying to solve the problem of today, and it's that
Yes,
whole idea of everything in your life is so difficult to navigate right now, but if you can just get through day by day, and
that's
there's
it.
moments where you kind of see it bring them together, and then moments where it's kind of like
Mhm.
weaponized very lightly against each other of like, I can't hear this again, we can't have the same conversation. How did you find that that impacted a lot of the elements in their conversations throughout that episode?
I don't know, I don't really know how to answer that. I think, when you're working with such brilliant scripts and you're shooting in a way that is in that one take format, it's so freeing. And also in the rehearsal time that we had, like the first week, I mean, this was such a treat. So the first week of rehearsals, we've got Stephen and Jack on the floor with us. So, we're digging through the script, we're playing with the script, and just finding these real moments. And then even when we're shooting the takes, things can slightly change as well within that. So the second week, so the first week, it's all about the script, the dialogue, the playing of it. they're playing with it as well. And then the crew and camera come in. Matt, who's just a genius, and Lee, our main cameraman, and the crew, and then we rehearse, and it's quite meticulous. You know, we're doing it in blocks with the camera and all the moves, and then going into the end of the second week, we do a tech rehearsal. The camera goes up on the Thursday of the second week, and we start going for full takes, and then the last week is shooting the episodes, one take in the morning, one take after lunch. So getting to these moments of, you know, where we've been seeing a therapist, and I mean, all these moments within it, it's just naturally played within the moments of us playing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, we don't dig in, like, well, I don't, because you're in the moment playing it. But they've, you know, I think Manda, you know, it's this will break a lot of managers, what's gone on, I can imagine, and break a lot of families. And that's, I mean, that this, you know, Eddie and Manda love each other. They're, you know, just a happy, normal family. And they're both trying to keep it together, and also for Lisa as well. But at times, that amount of stress and heartbreak is going to cause upset at times, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I think
absolutely.
there's so much love there between them as a couple, and I think for Amanda, Eddie's all she's ever known, and she loves her life and her two kids.
Yeah, you really see two people fighting to make it through with each other and to not let it break them apart, which is beautiful to
Yeah,
see.
and I think you know, to towards the end of episode 4, it's yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? Because, you know, he is going to plead guilty, and 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 they question themselves. Could we have done more? And that acceptance of going, I think it'd be okay for us to think that maybe we should have done. Because no matter what, that's still their little boy, isn't it?
Also with what you were describing about, you know, the process and then the point where you're working with the crew and you're kind of like doing those runs of the episode, because episode 4 moves location wise so
Yeah,
much. You know, we go from
yeah.
the home, we go to Wainwright's, we are across
Mm,
the field when he runs into the teenagers that vandalize the van, we're coming back.
yeah,
And it has to be so meticulously timed, because usually when you're filming a scene, it's, you know, well, we're going to run the dialogue and the scene is going to last how long it lasts. But with this,
yeah.
it has to be timed so specifically, because you don't want to run the scene but still be 2 blocks away in the van driving back to the house. And I was just interested in, you know, really having to be so meticulous about the timing and the rhythm of scenes in that way for the format.
Yeah, I mean, we're just so blessed because I think that before we even landed on the set, that had all been timed. They'd all started, you know, that journey to Wainwright, you know, like doing the recce's and stuff. And you know, when you've got a director like Phil Badantini, who's just a beautiful soul and a wonderful director, you've got a producer like Joe Johnson, like the team, Hannah, you know, the crew. It's everyone's just brilliant at what they do, and so it's that level of teamwork that brings all that to life, that keeps that moving, for
Yeah.
it to be shot that way. I mean, there was times on um when we were shooting episodes 1, we follow, so they come and take Jamie, and so the cameras in the policeman that heads off first, and obviously quick change, because you know I'm in a night raid, quick change, and then we follow in a convoy behind them, and we needed the lights to change, so there's moments like that because Jamie goes in first and then we're in the van behind, jumping out, like running into the studio, because all of that was made inside the studio. But I remember one day the police van went, and then the lights changed. We were like, just go, 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 little moments like that, where that bit of traffic couldn't be controlled. But I can't praise the crew enough, because it was a beautiful synchronicity, like that level of teamwork, and it's like doing a dance, and Stephen said it's like doing a game of footy, like you're all passing the ball. I mean, there was so much love on that set. Every single person there cared. We all had each other, and that was just such a beautiful way to work.
It's incredibly remarkable the way that
Especially
you all
with
put
all
your
those
team.
logistics, like what you say,
Yeah.
like getting from A to B to this to that, and there's only one camera, and then you've got Lee and Matt who were just like passing it to each other. And there was that moment on the stairs, and that allows you so much freedom as an actor as well. Is that I think Manta did a stop, and then they just, the camera team just say, well, and then the camera was passed up as I'm walking up the stairs. I mean, it's just genius. And I think that, episode 2 is genius. The camera work in episode 2 with all of those kids. It's just, yeah. It's I think it's just wonderfully shot as well.
Yeah, the entire series is such an incredible feat when you see all the behind the scenes of that all
Did,
coming together. And
did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy watching something in one shot?
yeah, I really, really did. Because, like I was describing earlier, I love the in-between moments that it gives you with these characters. And just like the tension kind of never, and the emotion like never breaks away because you're never cutting from it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you carried with us within the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It wasn't a gimmick. It really enhanced the storytelling. And I'm just
yeah.
so impressed, and I loved your performance. So thank you so much for talking about it, Christine.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so lovely talking to you.